Good evening. Welcome to our Chad's All-In Conversations for June. Michael, it looks like it's just you and I so far. We'll give people another minute or two to hop on, but I know June and July are kind of tough months for people to be here, but just wanted to say hello. My name is Colleen. I'm the program director at Chad's Coalition, so I oversee all the programs and services that we provide in schools and in the community. I think tonight we didn't have a ton on the agenda necessarily to talk about, not that we normally do. I did want to share, and I'll share my screen here, that we, our schedule for the all-in conversations for starting in July. So we did decide to add a little bit more structure to our all-in conversations following this year. This year was really just to see how things went and how many people are able to join. And so we did decide to add a little bit more structure and basically themes to every month for next year. So as you'll see on the screen, we have the July through December schedule, and we'll have registration open for July at least, hopefully next week or the week after. We're going to stick with still the first Tuesday of the month. And then as you can see down at the bottom, in July, we're going to do a training trusted adults. So this is a standard training that we provide in the communities to parents, caregivers. We also do it in schools for teachers and administrators, just about the signs and symptoms of depression and suicide and how to help their teens if they're struggling or if they see a youth that might be struggling with those signs and symptoms. Then in August, we're hopefully going to have a school counselor come as a guest and talk to them about how to work with the school counselor when your child or when a child might be in crisis. So that's during the crisis and even after a mental health crisis of some sort, especially whenever it comes to perhaps the child has to be hospitalized or just not be in school for a period of time. How can they best work with the school and the school counseling team upon that re-engagement with the school whenever the student goes back to school, how to navigate those conversations with teachers and peers and all of those things that come along with that. September is Suicide Prevention Month, and so we'll be doing a specific feature on our Signs of Suicide program. We provide that program in over 200 schools throughout the St. Louis area. It is evidence-based, and it gives students not only the tools to identify if they're seeing warning signs in themselves or a friend, but also empowers them to take action, to acknowledge that they're seeing these symptoms, show that they care, and tell a trusted adult. And that does come, every one of our Signs of Suicide trainings includes a screening for depression and an opportunity then and there to fill out a slip to ask to talk to the school counselor or social worker if they're worried about themselves or a friend. So we'll do a deep dive into that program and what it looks like. In October, we will be talking about social emotional learning and a little bit of bullying prevention, which is where our social and emotional learning program was born from, was bullying prevention. October is bullying prevention month, so we'll have a little bit of information and statistics around bullying, how it happens, what it looks like anymore, and most importantly, how to empower our kids and build resilient kids so that they can stand up to bullying when they see it happening or even whenever it's happening to themselves. November, we are going to focus on supporting your child through crisis. So similar to, August, when we talk about working with your school counselor when your child is in crisis, during and after. We're also want to talk about how do you support your child when they're in a crisis? What should those conversations look like? What are some things to perhaps be aware of? We're huge proponents of, practice, practice, practice. If you remember in school, stop, drop, and roll. We did that all the time, just like we do fire drills all of the time. And at Chad's, we believe that mental health and suicide prevention and practicing those conversations should be happening all of the time as well. So again, we'll be talking about supporting your child through crisis through the lens of a parent or a caregiver. And then in December, we're going to talk about coping with holiday sadness. That's something that we know is really prevalent, no matter how old you are, whether you're a child or an adult, and depending on your life circumstances, the grief might be a little bit heavier during the holidays. And so we're going to talk about healthy coping skills and what we can do to navigate those really difficult situations that can come up during the holidays. So, we do have a tentative schedule for January through May. We're not publicly putting that out there yet. We want to see how the first couple of months with this new structure goes in July through December, but then hopefully soon we'll be publishing an opening registration for those January through May live podcasts. Some other exciting things, or I should say actually first, that we're going to keep the same format in terms of an open forum in some place where, or a place where a parent or a caregiver or an adult who cares about kids can come and just have a conversation about youth mental health and have a conversation about what might be going on with the youth in their lives. We're hoping that having these themes will add a little bit of structure, but also make it more enticing to come to these sessions and have these conversations with a little bit more solidified or a little bit more knowing what might be happening or what to expect, if you will. So I think that's all that I have specifically to cover. I don't know, Michael, if you came with anything in mind that you wanted to talk about. I'm happy to talk about it or answer any questions you have. Otherwise, I'll kind of just hang out and wait a few minutes and see if anybody else shows up.
Yeah, I didn't have anything specific. I made a picture to remind myself of this slide you have up. So whenever those come up, I'll sign up for those. It's just more of a interest on my part just to be aware, because it seems like a lot of things happen that maybe always did, but maybe things have changed over time, and just wanted to be aware of the signs of things before there's issues for all the kids that I might be exposed to and my own and whatnot. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate you being here tonight and even just taking an interest in general. I think it's always good to, know or be aware of things that might be changing as they're changing. And again, no matter what youth you might be coming into contact with, whether it's your own or their friends, that kind of thing. So.
Yeah, that was kind of the way I was thinking of it, is just kind of be able to spot something before it becomes a bigger issue, mainly. So
absolutely,
I like the idea that the July through December have the kind of themes that I think that'll be good.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping, is that it'll provide a little bit more direction so people know what they're getting into instead of just signing on to, and not that the open forum has been bad in any way. I think it's been incredibly successful, and that's why we wanted to continue it. So it looks like we have a couple of people joining us too. So hi, Brian. Hi, Nancy. She looks like she's still connected to audio. Michael, do you mind my asking, what do you do or what sort of interactions do you have with kids, if any?
I have a daughter that's in elementary school, and she's in Girl Scouts and Cub Scouts, and so okay. I hadn't been around kids since my little brother was a kid, so it's all kind of they're at an age where it's kind of, I imagine things start getting a little more complicated after 8, 9, 10, 11 years old. And so
yeah, well, it's always better to be proactive, and trying to know stuff up front versus reacting and trying to figure it out in the moment. So yeah,
or overreacting. And yeah,
absolutely. So well, Brian and Nancy, thank you for joining us this evening. I was just sharing, I just wrapped up sharing with Michael the schedule, which you see on the screen that we shared, the schedule for July through December live podcast that we plan on doing. So I was sharing with Michael that we are adding a little bit of structure during this next year, just so that people that are coming know what to expect, and what type of conversation they're going to engage in. The open forum has been really successful, which is what we've been doing this year. And so we wanted to add a little bit more intentionality behind it. So for example, September is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. So we'll be talking specifically about the evidence-based suicide prevention program called Signs of Suicide that we provide in schools. October is Bullying Prevention Month. And so we'll be talking about our social and emotional learning program and social and emotional learning skills that a lot of schools are using, or methods that they're using in buildings, and how that can directly impact bullying and bullying prevention. So we are hoping that this is just going to create even more of an audience for these live podcasts, and we'll continue to record them and also hopefully put them on the website, so that people can always come back and look at them if they miss one or they can't sign on for any particular reason. So you see Brian said he's on a noisy train, so that's totally fine. Nancy, I wanted to say hello to you too. I think when I said hello the first time, you were still signing on to audio, but certainly if there are any questions or any specific topics that you all wanted to discuss or dive into, you can drop them in the chat or just unmute, and I'm happy to speak on them or answer any questions that you guys might have.
So will there be a login like there was a registration, like there was before, or it'll just kind of be here on a certain website?
So good question. For right now, we're planning on having people pre-register, but definitely open to feedback on that. Like if it needs to be more open and easier to get access to, we're happy to do that. But for right now, we're going to have people pre-register. It helps us keep track of some metrics and stuff. Being a nonprofit, data collection is a big part of what our business. So we will have people pre-register. I didn't say this since you've logged on, Brian, but we will have registration for July open hopefully within the next week or so that people can register. We're keeping the same first Tuesday of the month at 6 p.m. Again, it'll be a little bit of content and then plenty of time still for question and answer and conversation and some of that peer support, for lack of a better word. I think that that's been a huge benefit that we've learned from this year in doing these. So, and for reference, the Training Trusted Adults program that we're going to do in July is the standard training that we do with parents and caregivers and community members and even schools and like teachers and administrators around the signs and symptoms of depression and suicide. And then how you as an adult can help a person or a child that you're worried about. We will talk about it from the parent or caregiver lens, but typically whenever I do those, I also bring in the school counselor or teacher lens as well, because that reaction to, or when you're concerned, how you navigate that conversation does look a little bit different if it's, you know, your own child versus a student in one of your classes. So it'll primarily be that parent or caregiver lens, but we will talk a little bit about what a counselor would do or what their response would be if this happens in the school setting.
Yeah, that's on. I mean,
Oh no, it's cutting out a little bit, Brian. I'm not able to hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, I can hear you now.
I was just going to say that it's a great benefit. I love the addition of the topics. That's great. And it's still, like you said, time for conversation. My daughter had a CHADS counselor talk to her the second semester, which was very helpful for her. She's 13. So I just really appreciate all the support with the children we're raising. So thank you.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you. And I'm glad to hear that her seeing a counselor at all, but specifically a CHADS counselor, was really helpful for her. We love hearing those stories. And just knowing that the work that's happening in the schools is really helping. So thank you for sharing that too.
Yeah, that, and like I said, the peer support, like you mentioned, you know, being able to jump on here and share with Dr. Shannon and a couple other people, we were bouncing things up. So,
It cut out a little bit at the end, but I think I got the gist of what you were saying. So thank you. And yeah, we will definitely make sure that there's still that peer support and opportunity for everybody to talk to each other and talk through things. Because again, we know that that's an important part of this. So awesome. Well, I don't have any other like specific content unless there's something else anybody wanted to talk about or share or anything like that. I will make sure that this flyer is emailed out to you all specifically, but obviously we hope to start advertising this next week and get registration open so that people can start to register at least for the July one, and we'll kind of stack the rest of them after that. But yeah, that's all the specific content I had, unless anybody wanted to talk. I will stick around for a little while longer just in case anybody else hops on. And you all are welcome to hang out too. I don't expect you necessarily to stare at the screen or stare at my face when there's not a lot happening. But thank you all for being here. I really, really appreciate it. And look out for more information sometime next week about July.
Thank you.
Thank you.